Are you a witch?
I'm a practicing witch. That's how I make my living, yes.
And which kind of witch are you?
I'm initiated into Wicca, which is the religious side of things.
Witches tend to side with liberals. And you know what they wish President Trump would stop saying about the Mueller investigation?
It's a witch hunt.
I don't even have words. All right. We have a new format. We're looking out to protect you every night, your interest, unlike any other show, fair and balanced. We hope you'll join us. Thank you for being with us. Let not your heart be troubled. Jason Chaffetz. You don't look like Laura Ingraham. How are you? Welcome back. Happy New
Sorry,
Happy New Year.
I'm blowing your night for you. I'm sorry to do that.
They just screamed in my ear. Jason's in for Laura. I said,
well, thank you. I'm still laughing about that witch comment and the witch hunt. Sean, thank you so much.
Are you a good witch or a bad witch? I mean, are you a dopey channel or a really dopey channel?
That's
Trump
breaking news over
every
there.
Second, every minute, every hour, every day. This is all they have. Witches hate Trump. A segment. Witches hating Trump. God help this country.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
Have a good show.
As Sean said, I'm Jason Chaffetz in for Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. A violent mob of migrants hurling rocks at our Border Patrol agents. This as Nancy Pelosi doubles down on her refusal to give any money for the border wall, and President Trump not backing down today, saying the shutdown will last as long as it takes. Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows join me in just minutes. Plus, incoming Senator Mitt Romney's first order of business is taking on Trump. This coming months after accepting the president's endorsement. Also, a resident at the Cleveland Clinic fired after social media posts surfaced of her comparing Jewish people to dogs and saying she'd give them the wrong medication on purpose. But first, tomorrow marks day 13 of the government shutdown. And while President Trump and the Republicans are working around the clock to come up with a compromise to get funding for border security, Democrats are doing their best to delay and score political points as the situation at our southern border grows more dire by the day. Just look at what happened Monday night. A violent mob of more than 150 illegal immigrants rushed the border, putting women and children in danger, even reportedly pushing them to the front while clashing with Border Patrol agents. This is the second such incident since the caravan arrived late last year. President Trump says it's more proof he needs the money to build the wall.
We have a very tough border. I think you said that even last night, where people charged the border, tried to get through, but they couldn't because we have a wall up. If they knew they had a physical barrier, if they knew they had a wall, if they knew they had something that's going to stop them, they would have never come up in the first place. We're in a shutdown because Democrats refuse to fund the border security. They try and make it like it's just about the wall, and it is about the wall. The areas that are built, nobody's getting through. You can't get through unless you're a world-class pole vaulter on the Olympic team.
We've got a big lineup for you tonight covering all the angles. Former acting ICE Director Tom Homan is here, plus Congressman Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan. But we begin with Trace Gallagher in our West Coast newsroom with the backstory. Trace?
Jason, the Border Patrol says just after midnight on New Year's, it fired tear gas at a group of migrants because they were throwing rocks and trying to climb the border fence, saying the migrants were again showing their propensity for violence. Watch.
Instead of trying to come north or surrender, they decided to assault Border Patrol agents with a hail of rocks. Our agents responded with the least amount of force they possibly could to protect themselves in the border and did actually secure the border in this area.
But an Associated Press photographer disputes the Border Patrol's sequence of events, saying the rocks were thrown after the tear gas was launched, though there appears to be no dispute that more than 100 migrants did rush the border and used a variety of tactics to climb over and under the fence. And former ICE Director Thomas Homan says it's no coincidence that TV cameras happen to be rolling.
The people that plan these and motivate this caravan are taking on the Border Patrol. They want to make it a story about Border Patrol abusing the civil rights of these aliens. And again, the Border Patrol is doing their job.
No reports of major injuries, but dozens of migrants were arrested. This marks the second time in 2 months that caravan members have stormed the border, and the second time that border agents have pushed them back using tear gas and pepper. Immigration agents, Customs and Border Protection says the number of sick kids at the border is soaring, and that they are now referring 50 people a day for urgent medical care, including for tuberculosis, flu, and women about to give birth. Most of those who need care are children. In fact, 28% of all cases are those under the age of 5. CPB also says most of those needing medical help were sick before they arrived at the border, and many of the migrants had acknowledged being told that if they brought their young children to the border, they would get more lenient treatment by U.S. authorities. Jason.
Thanks, Trace. Joining me now, Tom Homan, former acting ICE director and Fox News contributor, and Francisco Hernandez, an immigration attorney. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. It's tough to see kids, particularly at the border, but it does appear, Francisco, that a lot of these parents have been told that it would be easier to get into the United States if they brought their kids, and that they're trying to use these kids in order to, make their way in the United States.
Absolutely. We are the country where it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. I do want to say I can't understand why Special Agent Holman was not made permanent director of ICE. I mean, he does have the support of the troops. He has my respect, and he has real solutions. But the problem is here, now we're blaming the Democrats who just took over the House today. What happened to the last 2 years? Why couldn't they build a wall? Why couldn't they do immigration reform the last 2 years? We're sitting down,
it's a math problem.
And nothing's getting done.
It's a math problem, and that number is 60. Well, it is. They require 60. I mean, the House of Representatives did pass a $5 billion, appropriation for $5 billion to build the wall. But to say that the Republicans had the House and Senate and the president wouldn't be accurate either.
Why are Republicans scared of a Democrat filibuster? Let them show their true colors and let them filibuster, but put something on the table.
I agree with you.
I'm scared of the Democrat filibuster. I'm scared of the Democrat filibuster. We've had 2 years of fear.
I want to bring it Tom Homan in here.
Please do.
Just endorsed him.
I will yield to him.
But I agree with you. I think the Senate should have voted in the 115th Congress on the bill that was passed out by the House. Tom, though, I want to get to the situation on the border. You've got Border Patrol agents. They're not very well compensated. They put all the weight on their shoulders. But the Border Patrol agents, they do want a wall, don't they? And how are they dealing? How do you instruct and teach people and tell people to deal with people who supposedly are coming to claim asylum, but they're throwing rocks at you and trying to sneak under the border or over a wall?
Well, look, these Border Patrol agents, they are well trained, first of all. And you said they're not being compensated very much. They're not being compensated at all right now. I mean, these men and women are working,
exactly.
They're not being paid, and they're putting their lives on line for this country. And I saw what happened on the border. And look, they're doing the best job they can. They took an oath to protect this border, and using tear gas was the minimum use necessary to protect themselves. They can't be hit with rocks. I mean, so
they do what they got to do.
And we ought to salute them for doing their job. But, and I said it in an earlier show, this isn't all by accident. These demonstrations, and there's a lot of pushing going on the southern border. These caravans are trying to make the news. They want to put the Border Patrol in bad light. They want to be on the front page of every newspaper in the world. So you're not going to convince me that 7,000 people, one at a time, decided, hey, let's all go to the United States. This has been managed. This has been planned by certain groups, and they're taking advantage of loopholes in our system.
Now, you're correct. Preach on. Yes, I'll sign up with Special Agent Holman. He's absolutely right.
But Francisco, why are these people not going to the port of entry? I mean, that's where the resources are.
Well, because they can't get in the port of entry. They can't. This is an entire orchestrated. We don't know if it was from the right or the left, but there is no way 7,000 people all of a sudden get up and come over here in unison, and none of them look like they missed a meal. Okay, this is politics. It is a political ghost. We're afraid of it. We can't touch it, but we're all afraid of it. Let's just get down to immigration reform. If Democrats going to block it, let them filibuster. Let them show their true colors.
No argument here. Senate should be voting, no doubt about that. I want to ask Mr. Homan, though, for a second, though. There's a report out today that when the congressional leaders went over to meet with the White House, Secretary Nielsen was going to give a briefing, and that they were interrupted by either Ms. Pelosi or Mr. Schumer, and they really didn't want to get the briefing when they went to the White House. What runs through your mind when you hear stories like that?
It is unconscionable that our Democratic leadership did not let the Senate-confirmed Homeland Security Secretary give them a security briefing on the border. I mean, she was going to share with them, she got some about the numbers, how many criminals have been arrested coming across the border, how many terrorists have been arrested coming across the border, how many criminals have been arrested by ICE that are here illegally, that obviously came in the United States illegally. She was going to give them a real-life situation on the border, how many children are sick, how many people come and need medical attention, how many people come with disease. And they refused to let her give them a briefing. They failed their number one responsibility for this country as congressional representatives and get a security briefing on the border. They didn't want to hear it because it doesn't fall in line with their talking points of there's no problem on the border. Nancy Pelosi said the other day, there's no crime, there's no disease on the border.
I got to get your reaction.
If they would have heard this today, they would have known.
I've only got a minute. I've only got a minute left.
Why do we let the Democrat? Why are we letting the tail wag the dog? Democrats been a minority for 2 years. Why are we letting them discuss when we
Jason, let me tell you what needs to happen. Since they shut down the secretary today, if the president of the United States is watching, I implore you to have a presidential address to the entire nation in prime time and share this data with the American people. They voted for you to secure this border. They need to hear this data on the criminals, in the gangs, in the drugs coming across this border. Go around, Nancy and Mr. Schumer. Talk to the American people. You will win their support. You're doing the right thing.
Sign me up. That's a man speaking the truth right there. Absolutely. I'll fold. I'm on with him. Absolutely.
Well, good. Listen, gentlemen, thank you very much for what you do, and thanks for joining in this discussion. But I've got to move on to another topic, but it's really the same topic, because President Trump has asked congressional leaders to return to the White House on Friday to try to hammer out a deal on national security. But neither side appears willing to compromise on what that actually means.
So how long do you think the government is going to stay partially shut down?
Could be a long time, or it could be quickly. Could be a long time. It's too important a subject to walk away from. We're in the shutdown because of the fact that the Democrats are looking to 2020. I actually think it's bad politics, but I'm not thinking about the politics. I'm thinking about what's right and what's wrong. And we need a physical barrier. Everything else is bells and whistles.
The bottom line is very simple. At our last meeting, the president said, I am going to shut the government down. They are now feeling the heat. He says he won't sign it and use the government as hostage. We should just give in. The American people don't want that. That's bad for our country, and that's not the way to govern.
We're asking the president to open up government. We are giving him a Republican path to do that. Why would he not do it?
Joining me now for an Ingram Angle exclusive, House Freedom Caucus members Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I had the honor and privilege of serving with you, so it's always good to be back with you.
Good to be back with you.
Yes.
Committee back together.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want to start with Mark Meadows here. Congressman, I got to tell you, there's been some tweeting out there and some reports that you've been working pretty closely with Lindsey Graham on trying to figure out how to figure out the right compromise. Where are we at tonight?
Well, I can tell you, you said it earlier, the president has been working around the clock, he and his team. I can tell you, I was on the phone with him twice yesterday. I was on the phone with him on Christmas Eve. Senator Graham has done the same, doing great work, really offering a number of options. It's interesting. The whole narrative is that the Republicans won't compromise and the Democrats won't compromise. But I can tell you, there's been at least 3 substantial offers, both directly and indirectly, that have been made on behalf of the Republicans that really come up against a wall. It is a wall of really undeniable resolve where they're saying zero money for border security. Let's have open borders, and the American people won't support that.
I want to play this clip and let Jim Jordan react to it. This is Nancy Pelosi on another network.
Are you willing to come up and give him some of this money for the wall? Because apparently that's the sticking point.
No, nothing for the wall. We're talking about border security.
Nothing for the wall, but that means it's
well, we can go through this all, back and forth. No. How many more times can we say no? Nothing for the wall.
What's your reaction?
Well, I mean, this is Nancy Pelosi. This is the same lady who said you got to read the bill before you know what's in it, or excuse me, pass the bill before you know what's in it. This is the same Nancy Pelosi who 3 weeks ago in the Oval Office said there aren't the votes on the House to pass a bill with border security, border wall funding in it. And a few days later, it was 217 to 185. So when she says she's not going to do it, I say let's take the case to the American people, just like the president's doing. Ask some families who've seen terrible things happen by people who came into this country illegal. Ask Molly Tibbetts' family. Ask the law enforcement officer just a few weeks back. So this is important. We need the border security wall. The president's been clear on that. As Mark just indicated, he's willing to compromise, but the Democrats have said nothing, just like Nancy Pelosi, nothing for the wall. That's the problem. If you want to deal with the drug problem, the gang problem, with your previous guest said, and the human trafficking problem, you need a border security wall. That's all we're saying, and we're only asking for $5 billion, and we were willing to come down some on that. So let's just get off the positions, Speaker to be Pelosi, and let's do what the American people
I don't know how the Democrats can be successful, because you're trying to do what the Border Patrol wants. The Border Patrol wants the impediment to people coming north. They're the ones that have to deal with it. Jerry Nadler, the congressman from New York, is the incoming chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, which does have jurisdiction here. Listen to the comments he made.
But this shutdown that President Trump has initiated proudly, he claimed it, is really blackmail of the American people because he is feeling abandoned. So what this shutdown is really is an extremist policy designed to appeal to an extremist base and hold the whole country hostage.
You know, it's interesting. Most people back home, most of your viewers tonight, they believe that they need to have a safer community and a secure border. We're a nation of laws. Let's uphold the laws. And yet here we are, Border Patrol agents. You just heard it there. Border Patrol agents that say they need a barrier. They need the tools to do that. We need to do that. Listen, the president has waited 2 years. He campaigned on this. You know that, Jason. He's waited 2 years. He says enough is enough. Now is the time to do it. Let's make sure that we get a border wall.
Here's the fundamental problem. The Democrats are much more focused on stopping the president than they are on doing what's best for the country. The agents want the wall. The American people want the wall. People whose families who've had loved ones harmed by people here illegally want the wall. Mr. Nadler, he's much more focused on impeachment proceedings. He's much more focused on the emoluments clause, on Trump's tax returns, and all those things. Let's do what's best for the country here.
I don't know how a Democratic Party succeeds when they want to abolish ICE. They say the wall is immoral. They're in favor of sanctuary cities, and then when you try to fund the things that they voted in favor of previously, they're not willing to do the appropriation.
Many of these same Democrats, you saw Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, many of them have voted for border fencing and walls previously. The only difference now is President Trump is in the White House and they can't stand to give him
Okay, so how do you get over that hurdle?
I think, one, you have to continue to give options, which the president is doing. You have to make the case to the American people. We're trying to get a petition going. You know, we've opened up borderwallnow.com, where we're encouraging grassroots from across the country, just started today, where they go on and sign a petition and say, we're standing with the president, we want border security, but it's really going to be your viewers and people like them across the country that have to speak up.
The GoFundMe page, Brian Call page.
Yeah.
I think it's $19 million already. Yeah. One of our colleagues, House Freedom Caucus member Warren Davidson's got a bill which would enable that money to actually go to the Treasury and help build the wall. His bill is called Buy a Brick, Build a Wall. Those are the kind of things that the American people, that's good common sense. That makes good sense. Let's continue to make the case, and let's get this done for the American people.
Yeah, it's almost $19 million. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I got to transition to a little bit of oversight, something the three of us sat on, and I was the former chairman of. You're going to be the new ranking member, working alongside Elijah Cummings, who will be the new chairman of that committee. I think the Democrats have laid out some 80-plus investigations that they already. How are you going to deal with that?
So they've talked about 80 different investigations they want to do. They had 54 different subpoenas that they wanted to issue this past Congress. Right. And just 2 weeks ago, Mr. Cummings sent out 51 letters on all kinds of things he wants to investigate. So we'll see. Do they? I think the president said this best. Do they want to legislate or do they want to investigate? It sure seems like they want to investigate. It sure seems like they're more focused on stopping President Trump than they are on helping the country. So we'll see what Chairman Cummings and some of the other chairmen want to do.
What I thought was interesting, I was very proud of the fact that we had evidence of something that was wrong and then we pursued it, as opposed to presupposing the end result and then trying to go back and fill in the facts later.
And I'll still call you Mr. Chairman, and you're exactly right, because what happened there, Jason, is we have an oversight responsibility, not an investigative responsibility. It's very different. Right. When wrongdoing or the suspicion of wrongdoing is brought to us, then indeed we can properly investigate, conduct oversight, and do the like. But yet here we have is a fishing expedition where we're going to say everything that you could possibly have done wrong, we're going to investigate, even if it was prior to you becoming the President of the United States. It's just wrong.
We just got to focus on the truth.
Yeah.
Focus on getting to the truth, doing our proper oversight, holding the executive branch accountable, but focus on the truth. If we do that, I think we'll be fine and we'll serve the taxpayers.
Well, gentlemen, we appreciate what you do. I appreciate your service. And I know personally how much time you sacrifice away from your beautiful families that you have. And I thank you for joining us here tonight. There's a lot on the line. It would be interesting to see what happens tomorrow and the election of a new speaker. But coming up next, Mitt Romney comes roaring into Congress with a renewed attack on the president. Hear my take on the new war of words. Plus, the newly elected senator from Indiana, Mike Braun, on the eve of being sworn into the 116th Congress.
He hasn't even gotten to office. And he was very happy when I endorsed him. So I think that Mitt Romney hopefully will be a team player. And if he's not, that's okay too. Look, I handle it.
Coaching means making tough choices.
Jim, you're in.
But when you have high blood pressure and need cold medicine that works fast, the choice is simple. Chloroseed and HBP is the #1 brand that gives powerful cold